So have you seen this bass before?
Mm-mm.
It's Mike Padula. It's made up in Massachusetts. It was a furniture manufacturing family. And then one of the sons said, you know, hey, yo, I know how we can make more money with that maple than with chairs. And it makes a really nice product. This one's been around a while. You can tell it's kind of beat up. Also because the tuners say Schaller, West Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought many times to change these out for a lighter set of tuners to improve the balance. But nah.
Like the antique?
I just like that it says West Germany on it, and you know, it's a little reminder that, well,
that happened.
Yeah, that happened, and there's some hard times associated with it.
Yeah.
I was just a toddler. My dad played music every day after work. He was a pretty bright guy, and when he'd come home from no such agency, he played the piano. I mean, constantly. So I mean, some of my first memories are sitting around the piano, and we'd sing songs, or he'd sing songs to us. And I remember being turned loose at 4 or 5 years old. Go learn, you know, sit down and learn that Mozart, learn that Mendelssohn, Schumann. He wasn't pushy about it, but it was always there. So you know, if you were bored, there was always the piano. So yeah, I gotta admit that was a big influence because my dad had it such a cool hobby. He obviously got a lot of enjoyment out of it without necessarily thinking about trying to be a star or anything like that. It was just along with athletics and literature, it's just something that everybody did in the previous generation. Music was something you made yourself at home.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
It was seeing John Lennon, the Beatles, but seeing John Lennon in particular on the Ed Sullivan Show and going, what is that? What's he doing? That looks like fun. There's just something graceful and uninhibited about him and his rhythm guitar. So I'm going to ask you and Aidan to play chords together, you know, nice and loud. And I'm going to deliberately put in some non-chord tones. I'm generally going to use the approved non-chord tones from classical music, which is the neighbor note, go next door, come right back, neighbor note, the passing note. I went from 1, 2, 3. The 2 doesn't fit, but the 3 does. That's a passing note. He did.
Push the string.
Oh, bending strings is what makes life worth living. No, I love bending strings. It sounds a little bit more like a singer. I'm able to play more in tune that way. It's just a fun thing to do.
What are some of the things you like and don't like about teaching music?
Well, okay, there's a lot of things I like about it, or I would not have persisted. There certainly ain't much money in it. But it's the repetition of that moment when a student crosses over from being annoyed or irritated, disinterested, to you see that light of curiosity in their eyes. And they might be looking at a piece of music or listening to something, and there's that, oh, what's this? You know, that's worth more than money.
Do you remember the first gig you played?
Let's see, there's a Methodist church off of Randolph Road, just west of New Hampshire. And I went over there with Billy Brown and some other guys. They were all a little older than me, but by then I knew enough about music that I could fit in with older folks. So we played in this church basement for some dance.
You remember how it went?
I'm going to quote a friend of mine. He's fond of saying, you know, we had some nice moments.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of beating yourself up for the little things that went wrong, you focus on having some, you know, really exciting moments scattered throughout the event. So yeah, there were some cool moments, and I always loved I always like playing in bands more than playing by myself, partly because there's an element of improvisation there, and there's nothing like being there in a band and if you change your part and hearing somebody next to you change theirs in reaction to it. Practice that for 40, 50 years and you get something really cool. You know, you're making pancakes. Sometimes you're content to hear Frankie Valli or something like that in the background. So background music is, I would say right now, is the biggest purpose for music. It really can serve to unite people who have no other common interests. You can have people with vastly different lives share a connection through music. I have a long history of putting people to sleep with my classical guitar. It's kind of a joke in the family, but I'd like to take some credit for that. You were asking about the purposes of music, and this relates directly to that. If you can get some people who are very stressed to calm down, even if it results directly in a nap, it's still a really useful service in an age of high anxiety. That's a wonderful thing, and I'd like being a part of that. I also like to encourage people to relate music to other areas of their lives, like literature and art, because it's all about relationships between the bridge and the coda and between people. Oh, bear my longing soul to Him who bled and died for me. I think it's really important for people to have a hobby, and music can be a really fulfilling one. It's kind of a bottomless pit. If you've got curiosity, you can easily spend a lifetime studying it and barely touch the surface. Angel band. It goes back to your first question, what was my first exposure to music? My dad and his hobby, that's really still the top of the list. You know, I do all these things to try to make a living with music, but I'm also very selfish about it. It's still a hobby. It's still what I'm gonna do if some buddies want to get together and have some pizza. It's like, well, that's sight reading, man. Yeah, it's great fun. I've almost reached my heavenly home. My spirit